you went into a creative career as a photographer, and you say in your book, which came out last year, which is a lovely collection of your work, with commentaries by you about it as well. You never wanted to go into the 9 to 5. Your dad was quite different there, wasn't he? What was his job?
What was he?
He was an accountant.
Yes. I mean, he still is. I mean, he's still with us. He was a chartered accountant, and he came from a very, working class background, sort of London, post-war, 1950s. And his dad was a chauffeur. His mum was a cook. And the family, they worked for the same family, his mum and dad. And the man of the family was a partner, I think, in a big firm of London, big city firm of accountants. And he gave, who would like to control my JHG would like to control your camera. What does that mean?
Don't allow it. Who's JHG? The whole thing's going crazy.
Anyway, so yeah, he got a job as an article clerk, and he eventually became qualified as a chartered accountant. And I grew up, by the time I was a teenager in the 80s, he was quite successful, and he had his own practice, his own firm with partners and 40 or 50 people. And I used to work for him actually in the holidays. I was blessed with his gift for maths as well.
I've noticed from your invoices, yeah, they come very, very quickly, and
tidily,
and very big,
and all the numbers.
He trained you well, Chris. But you do need, as a creative person, you need to be on top of that side of things, don't you? I mean,
yeah, it's just that's the reality of it. Is you have to be able to. You have to. I mean, I'm so shocked sometimes when I meet people who do similar things to me.
Yeah,
and they just don't. They don't have any clue how to do what they need to do to survive. If you can't survive financially, then your options become very narrow very fast. So it really is just it's a question of survival and just learning how to manage all that. And also just not allowing people to take for granted, what you do. It's a skill. Spent years.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, by the way, well, we've got to come into some slides in a minute from Chris's book. As you might know, he's done loads of covers and spreads for the magazine ever since we relaunched 7 or 8 years ago, very generously, and actually being paid virtually nothing. Well, basically nothing, apart from a few expenses and a couple of pints of beer. So, Chris, thanks. I'm really grateful. I just wanted to say that to you in front of everyone. He's done some absolutely amazing work, and some of the pictures ended up in Chris's book. But that's the thing, is survival and how things have changed. Because I mean, I know in journalism, in the 90s, it was quite a golden period, perhaps the end of a longer golden age, when journalists were actually sort of paid quite well. But photographers, I know it's been really tough in the last sort of 10, 15, 20 years.
Well, yeah, I don't want to moan on and on about it. It's just boring. Yeah. But the fact is that, there's been a massive increase in supply. The demand is there, but also the thing is that, people want to read things for nothing and consume things for nothing, including me, I might add. Constantly looking at, I see a link to something and then the paywall comes up. I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
And then I just wander off and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But so I'm as bad as anyone. But yeah, in those, I think the advent of digital changed everything for everybody, whether it's photography, music, journalism, all kinds of things. And in a way, the fact that everything became much more immediate, in a way, it cheapened everything. I mean, when I started and when I used to work for magazines and people in America, you would do the shoot, take maybe 2 days to get the film processed, the turnaround time for the film processing. Then you would have to FedEx the contact sheets of the whole shoot to the magazine in America, and that's another 2 days. And then they would make their selections from that, and then you would get prints made, and that's another 2 or 3 days. And then the whole process was probably going at its fastest, probably 6 days at its fastest, 12 days on average. Now, I mean, I did a shoot actually today for an American magazine in LA. I mean, I've sent them the pictures already. You know, it's like 10:15 in the morning there. Probably quite soon, someone will email me with their choices, and they'll have the final ones by the end of today, by the end of their day. You know, is the growth in the change in what people expect from you has grown exponentially, and also what's happened with that has come a kind of this. We're now, I feel like we create that word content that you hear all the time. Content, you know, it's like you feel like a lot of the time like you're just there to fill a hole. You're putting stuff in the gap between the adverts.
Yeah. Well, Stuart Lee had a show called Content Provider, which was playing on that idea. And I love the quote in Succession where they, what's he called? The son.
The Jeremy Strong one.
Jeremy Strong one, yeah.
And Kendall.
Kendall Roy, you know, is proposing some ridiculous business idea, and he says, "We'll drown them in content."
Yeah.
And as a journalist or a photographer, any kind of creative person, you feel like you're just a sort of like a peon in the capitalist system, drowning.
Yeah.
But look, should we have a look at some photos? Let me just get the screen share going. You really did a lot of the bands in the 90s, didn't you?
Yeah. But I think I've started with someone else. I haven't started with a musician.
No, you started with someone else. Oh, Victoria, can you just adjust my setting, because I need to be allowed to share my screen, having left the meeting because of all these.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the real Tom Hodgkinson.
I changed my name so that I don't get mixed up with the others.
Make you co-host.
Being Tom Hodgkinson.
Yeah.
Okay, while I'm here, everybody, all of you who are still called TH or Tom Hodgkinson, you can rename yourself if you hover over your image. And there I'm going to put the instructions.
Oh, there we are.
Yay! Look at that.
Now let's just go back here.
Do you want to go to the top?
Oh, no, I'm ruining it. No, hang on. How do I go to the top without?
Oh well.
Okay. We didn't see
there you go. Everyone can leave now. It's done.
So Chris Floyd, Not Just Pictures. That's the name of your book. Great design as well.
Maggie Murphy from The Guardian designed that. The creative director at The Guardian. She did this.
Really, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so bold and simple. Now,
I've started
Anthony
with
Bourdain, I think.
Anthony Bourdain, yes, because the reason I started with this was because I wanted to show that on your best days, you really can have experiences that you can't buy, you know. And Bourdain was someone I photographed 3 or 4 times. I always had a fantastic time with him. And the first time I was commissioned to photograph him, I had no idea who he was. He was just a chef who'd written a book called Kitchen Confidential. This was about 99, 2000. And I was living in New York then. I lived in New York from 2000 to 2007. So it was a job for The Guardian, kind of standard editorial job. Oh, we've got a job for you. Go and photograph this chef. He's written a book. So it was just it was a gig, you know, it was just a job. I do remember very clearly that it was a Friday though. And I went to this restaurant where he was the head chef, which was called Les Halles on Park Avenue in New York. And within maybe 5 minutes of meeting him, I realized that he had an unbelievable charisma. There was just something about him. He was absolutely magnetic. And he was just one of those people you just wanted to listen to everything he said. And he came, I remember him using a phrase that I've never forgotten, which was, he called it the tyranny of brunch, which was because I said, what's your book about? And he said, it's about the tyranny of brunch, meaning years and years and years of just being a working chef in New York. And the worst shift is Sunday brunch, where you're just cooking endless orders of eggs Benedict, French fries.
Yeah,
French fries.
They hate that, do they?
They absolutely hate it, chefs. Really? They hate doing eggs Benedict and French fries.
They hate
I
broke.
don't know why. I just think he thought, you know, people's taste was just so kind of asinine.
Yeah,
And
they want to do weird stuff.
but then I also learned something else from him about never order fish in a restaurant on a Monday, because you just know that it's been left over since Saturday or Friday. And if you see any kind of fish soup in a restaurant on a Monday, do not order it, because it's just what they've used. They've used the leftover. All these amazing things that come from. I think what I loved about him was that he was a journeyman, and he was really proud to be a journeyman rather than artiste.
Yeah,
And I feel like I'm a journeyman, and I think I've talked to other photographers about this actually, that it's where is the line between craft and art? And people who view themselves as artists often see craftsmanship, they kind of look down on it or belittle it. But I think there's a great nobility in being able to turn out a job on demand, no matter what it is, and deliver an excellent result. And that's kind of what I really enjoyed talking to him about, with things like that.
Do we have that kind of humility? He didn't think he was some kind of exalted.
There was nothing special. It was like, this is a job, we're feeding people, you know, and that's it. I'm not doing anything more complicated than that. And then this was another day. These pictures here were, I think possibly it might have been another Guardian or an Observer job. I think he was doing his sort of 5 or 6 favorite New York Chinatown sort of street food, hole in the wall kind of joints.
Yeah.
Wow. And just kind of spent the day just kind of wandering around eating with him, really.
Look at that bottom right one. Nowhere else but New York.
Yeah, exactly.
The cab. Yeah.